apologise. Anybody that's watching and you've made a comment and I can't see it. Oh, wait a minute. I think I found it. I've found it. Right, okay. So let's get this run underway. Hope also you're not getting tired of the West Coast Main Line, but I'm kind of in love with it, I have to say. It's been terrific entertainment. And I just thought, well, it's getting a bit boring really just going to Milton Keynes Central, so that's why I thought let's do a full run up to Birmingham New Street. Still, of course, we've got the formations the wrong way round. We've got the first class at the country end rather than at the London end, but we know that Dovetail Games will sort that, so let us get the train set up. AWS on, and I'm also trying to be a good boy in terms of getting as much of these things put into place as possible. So the vigilance, for example, it will be going off every few minutes, but let's get that set up. AWS isolation, that's normal. Driver safety, isolate, shall we have that as normal? And I think we should be okay other than that. Let's get those doors open. We have got the excellent sound pack installed. Which is on the Train Sim community website, so that adds something to it, I think. We are stopping at Watford Junction to begin with. It was one of the few daytime services actually that I could find that stops at Watford Junction. Let's get moving. We are 1 Foxtrot 11. I mean, we're not quite going to pick up the same train from Milton Keynes. I've timed it to be roughly the same, and there's a little bit of an anomaly because I think we are on I can't remember if we're on 9 car, but there's going to be a mix and match with 11 car and 9 car, but it was the only way I could get the two to kind of run more or less in parallel. Because there's so many options on Train Sim Classic, but not sorry, on Train Sim World, but not so much on Train Sim Classic. For no clouds for once. Sunny September morning. The HS2 going on there on the right as we speak, and we are on one of those that's going to dive under Camden Bank and then emerge. And this is Park Hill Tunnels, I think. A steep climb actually to rejoin the West Coast Main Line, and again you can imagine even with the old electrics, the old first gen electrics, the 86s, the 87s, and particularly the 81s to 85s, it must have been quite a task actually getting up this hill with all the notching up required. We'll get into a bit of that when we have the Just Trains Preston to Carlisle add-on. So, as I said in the intro, the plan will be we'll take this to Milton Keynes, but then we'll join Train Sim Classic and we'll go through to Coventry, Birmingham International, Birmingham New Street, and then the return service will be via the Northampton loop on the 350. And I've not actually had a go at that yet, only purchased it yesterday. I certainly can. Great slides actually, isn't it? And hello, welcome to the chat by the way, thanks for watching. I quite like the fact that the tunnels are pretty dark as well, because I've listened to some of Dad Rail streams and he's made a point of saying that in real life you can see very little in the tunnels. And I think when we emerge we're going to pass under the Chiltern main line. Little bridge there. I mean, I know it's been out a couple of weeks now, but it still looks fabulous, doesn't it? Right, we can get a bit of speed up now. We can get up to 80 miles an hour. Kind of like that period in between summer and autumn. I mean, I don't think it was realistic to see brown leaves on the trees anyway yet, because I don't think that's happened yet in reality. It covers, you know, it's a bit too soon to be saying definitely autumn, though the weather's been a bit autumnal. Good question, and again, hello to Paul. I've been playing it quite a few years now. I didn't have it immediately when it came out, because at the time I hadn't got a PC that could run it properly, so I was a year or two into it. I mean, I go back really with train games all the way back to the year 2000, I think it was, when Microsoft Train Simulator came out, and then we had Train Sim Classic. So I've been playing train games for many years, and I wanted them even before that. And I go back to the time when you've got text-based train driver games, which was a little bit interesting. You had to use your imagination, but I've pretty much gone through all the carnations with Train Sim World, and you know, we had the Bakerloo line, one of the earlier ones, and Northern Transpennine, the Tees Valley line. So quite a few years now. And I've been waiting for years for the West Coast main line to come on Train Sim World as well. And I just hope it'd be lovely. Oh, there's Wembley in the background, Stonebridge Park, that big office block. mean, I'd love them to fill. It's the Wilston Mail Depot as well, isn't it? I'd love them to fill in some of the gaps as well. I mean, we've got Preston Carlisle coming up, albeit set in an older time. What about yourself? How long have you been playing the game for? Assuming you have, of course. Looking forward as well to the revised timetable. I keep looking on Train Sim Community website to see when that's coming out. Keep forgetting, of course, that the horns, spacebar and N. Of course, on Train Sim Classic, it's spacebar and B. So you will hear a few wrong attempts at that. There's a Bakerloo line service. And we're not too far away from being able to put the speed set on. I generally wait until we get to this 125 thing. It's now on, so it should maintain the speed, I hope. I think in Train Sim Classic you have to put it into notch 3. Mustn't forget to stop at Watford Junction as well. But I think it would be great to have the whole timetable put in, and because, you know, even with trying to do this, trying to do a linked service, it was impossible really to find a suitable service that compared with one on Train Sim Classic. Well, at least one that stopped at Watford Junction anyway. Just fancied stopping at Watford Junction for some unknown reason. Rolling through Harrow and Wealdstone, and watched a bit of a few clips of a video about there was a big accident there many years ago. Nice scene as well. We have both the Bakerloo line train and the overground just emerging out. I think sometimes some of these earlier morning timetables, it seems to be better set up than the rest of the day. It's almost as though DTG started the job, but they just didn't have the time to finish it, or I'm not totally sure if it was DTG or Rivet who compiled it. Yeah, so yeah, you've been playing it since 2000. That's marvellous. Yeah, do you enjoy it? I certainly enjoy it. I loved the Bakerloo line when it first came out. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's still a good ride. I'd love to see some more tube and underground lines. And I guess, you know, if your interest lies in British trains, then you kind of just want more and more British content, really. Yeah, 2000, of course. Yes, that was when the when when Train Sim. Yeah, Microsoft Train Simulator to begin with, cracking. I mean, it feels almost 25 years ago, but then it doesn't in many ways. But so much has changed since then, really, and you can only dream from those initial days. Then we had the Settle and Carlisle line. Oh, I'm speeding here. Forgot about me 110. I think we had the Settle and Carlisle with the initial pack for Microsoft Train Sim, and it was kind of okay, but not brilliant. And we waited quite a while. I think European Barn were the first forerunners with things like the London Brighton line. I was delighted when that came out to begin with for Microsoft Train Simulator, and then Making Tracks did some good stuff too with the that Great Eastern add-on from Liverpool Street. It all seemed a lot cheaper then, though, I have to say, and you got more for your money, but I guess we weren't getting the quality and the detail that we get now, and you know, sometimes it's not perfect, but you almost feel as though you're in the real world. I mean, it might sound random, but when this came out as Rail Simulator, well, say this, when Train Sim Classic came out as Rail Simulator, I was quite excited to get the proper AWS sounds and also some track joint sounds, because that was noticeably absent from the original Microsoft Train Simulator. Because there was all that talk for many years of there being a Microsoft Train Simulator 2, but it never quite materialised. Now here we are safely at Watford Junction. Let's get the doors open. Yeah, I will have to try, to be honest, Paul. I will have to try some non-UK stuff, because, I mean, the German stuff is great and very wide-ranging. I mean, I'm kind of a bit stuck with the safety systems, but it's a lot easier than it was, because it gives you the guide in the corner where it tells you what speed to go down to. But there is some fantastic content. We're slightly early, 6:54 we're due away. I mean, there's a lot more British content as well to go round.
Staff or use a help point.
It'd be lovely if we had authentic sort of station announcement, wouldn't it, really? We heard Anne Jeremy on the platforms. But I mean, people could moan about the detail, but all of that stuff's pretty decent. And it's nice now that we've got the mod in, that we've got the proper LNWR branding as well. Thank goodness we get the vigilance reminders from outside the cab, because we'd be struggling otherwise. So there you can see London North Western, and we've got a 350 arriving into the platform as well. I think we should just about be okay to shut the doors. I'm sure, you know, I'm sure lots of people know all about Train Sim Classic and all the rest of it. But it was kind of just a reminder really today with these runs that, yeah, Train Sim World only goes to Milton Keynes, but it's still possible to do a full run to Birmingham New Street. You can go up to Glasgow Central, you can go up to Edinburgh, you can go to Liverpool Lime Street. The one thing missing really is a bit of a link to Manchester Piccadilly, either via Stoke or Crewe, and I'm hoping the ATS route, when it's announced, might fill some of that gap in. But if it's just the style line, and again it's all pure speculation because people have gone on a couple of random screenshots, then it would be a shame really, because it would only be pretty much an EMU run even if the airport was included. The one thing with the American routes I can't quite bring myself to do is one of those very, very long freight services where you're just not going very fast and you seem to be in barren countryside for miles and miles on end. So we've got 29 miles to go to Milton Keynes. And then, at least with the follow-up scenario, we are departing from the same platform, so there's a bit of continuity there. Really quickly. Oh, there's a nice 66. You know those one pink container wagons that you see? I was just struck by watching a couple of YouTube videos the other day. I was kind of thought, oh, it's a bit overdone in Train Simulator, but they're all over the place. I've got a suspicion we're 11 car now, and I think we're suddenly going to be 9 car from Milton Keynes Central. I mean, I could have added the other 2 carriages in, but it's just a bit temperamental, and I thought, well, I don't want to waste any more time. It took me quite a while to actually try and link 2 that kind of work together, really. It's always my biggest bugbear with Train Sim Classic. Spend hours doing nothing with it sometimes. Now I think with this speed control, I presume we kind of have to click it twice. Maybe not, I don't know. I get confused with that. It's like it kind of cuts out on its own. The one thing I wouldn't observe with playing with the both together and driving the Pendolino for a bit on Train Sim Classic, you sometimes get the feeling that it's actually smoother on Train Sim Classic, but of course graphically this is massively superior. Sure, that's a random AWS ramp. That is a bug that needs fixing, because there was no speed reduction, there's no adverse signal. Still getting greens. It's a nice little scene I've not spotted before. The barges in the background, narrowboats, I suppose we should more accurately call them. good news about the return service from Birmingham New Street is it is 8 car from Birmingham New Street and Train Sim Classic, and it will still be 8 car when we carry on from Milton Keynes Central. Loving this tilting. It's not promising. You can see there straightening out and then going back round the other way. Takes me back to the days of the APT videos of the early 80s, and absolutely transfixed by that, and then seeing it in real life for the first time. There you go, remembered spacebar and N. I must get the power brake control reset up again, because I do enjoy driving it with both. It's just, I'm quite, with all the connotations going on with the stream. And incidentally, anybody that does chat, you know, thank you all for your comments, but I won't be able to type in replies. I'm just trying to react as I'm driving. But anybody out there that would like to make any more comments, then just fire ahead. I'll do my best to answer. I know it's not exactly unique doing a run on the West Coast Main Line at the moment. Feels like there's been hundreds of streams. I think next week it's going to have to be something a bit different. So I was thinking maybe a tube special, do a bit of well, perhaps start off with Bakerloo Line, do the District Line, the Met Line, and maybe do a little bit of variety. It's nice to get these fast runs, but it's also nice to do stopping trains where you're constantly thinking about braking and things to do. I'm sure one of the biggest issues with testing for drivers who are going to be driving these long distance runs is that power of concentration, because you could be driving hundreds of miles and then suddenly you unexpectedly get an adverse signal in the middle of nowhere, and also that time when you're getting endless double yellows and you can be maintaining the same speed, but then suddenly your brain doesn't switch on to the fact that it wasn't a double yellow, it's a single yellow, and then you're in trouble. Tring cutting. There's been times part of today where the weather's almost been like this, only a bit on the cool side. Tomorrow's going to be awful by all accounts. Great fan of doing train sim in the rain, really. It's just nice to see that utopia, the weather the way you would like it to be. Totally sure of me stopping pattern on the journey back with the 350. I know we're non-stop to Birmingham International, and then it's kind of a little bit all stations through to Coventry, but Rugby and beyond I'm not totally sure, but we'll take it and see what happens. And I only had a brief glimpse. I mean, I've seen some of the videos of Northampton and so on, but it's good that we've got that extra section in. Just adds a little bit more to the overall routes you can drive. Loving all the mods that have been created, and I think this does improve the sounds of the Pendolino. Love to count up how many videos there's been of the West Coast Main Line on Train Sim World 5 since it's been out. It's only been out a couple of weeks. Hundreds. Said it before, but I must kind of make a point of learning the route a little better so that I don't need the guides in the corner and you can just do it like a real driver would. And maybe that then it kind of makes you think a little bit more like that bit before Watford Junction where it goes down to 110. Again, just to complete the disparity between the two runs, I think this is technically a Liverpool Lime Street one, and then I think the one we're joining, I think was set up possibly as a Blackpool North maybe, but anyway, it doesn't matter. Of course, there are some good scenarios available where you can do all parts and it's all been linked together, which is nice with Train Sim Classic. We're going to be overtaking the 66. Just get these little seeds happening, don't you? You've got a 350 racing down, a 66 on a freight. Kind of enough stock included within the add-on, okay, allowing for the fact you've got to buy the Pendolino on top of everything else, but at least you can actually do, you know, it's a reasonable representation. It's not like Bear with no other trains available. Of course, you need the Goblin line as well to bring in the Aventuras. A lot of people streaming and reminding people as well, if you don't own Train Sim World 5 but you do own the previous versions, you can download it for free, but it's only for a limited period within the first month, I think it is. So if you've not done it yet, don't forget to do it, because you won't be able to do it for free afterwards. Of course, you don't get any added stock unless you buy it by the other routes. Towards the end of the first part of the journey. It's Bletchley. Really has been a fast run, hasn't it? More freight stuff in the yard, as well as another 350. don't really feel as though I've exhausted the 350 really in runs yet. I think Milton Keynes, a bit like Stevenage on the East Coast Main Line, would be a bit easy to forget. Because in real life, you're not necessarily going to get these adverse signals. You could easily get greens all the way. We haven't got the signal on that map thing on the right, but pretty sure that we're actually signalled into the platform. It does say departure time is due to be 7:17. I think that's round about right for the time I got set up for the Train Sim Classic bit of the run. We're coming into the wonderful Milton Keynes Central. To approach it, I mean, ideally slightly on the cautious side rather than being over the top with the braking, because you notice in real life when you watch these real videos that the drivers tend to be fairly cautious actually. And we've got a southbound service stopping as well, which is always nice to see. Doors open. I didn't hear any sounds actually of them opening. It all seems very quiet, but then it's this time of the morning, of course, still only just past 7 o'clock. Wait till the scenario has ended, so it's telling us to lock the doors. So I think technically we're going to end up locking the doors twice, but we won't worry about that. Right, so that is the first bit of the run. Now I wish there was some sort of magic where we could just load it straight up. Of course, if I was doing a video on a recorded video on YouTube, then we could have an edited thing where the transition is a lot smoother. But yeah, we do want to exit the game, and we are now going to load up Train Sim Classic. Still says Railworks actually on my computer. The logo Railworks 64, which of course meaning 64-bit. So talk amongst yourselves whilst I get this bit loaded up. Now, for this section, I'm using, there's a slightly upgraded West Coast Main Line south on the Train Sim community site. Can't remember the name of the man who did it. There's a few bits actually, but we're not going to see things like where he's put the Tesco in at Bushy, for example. But I don't know on the northbound section if there's any difference at all, really. So let's get this loaded up. It's just the frustrations of the time it takes to load the damn thing up sometimes. And incidentally, I've not mentioned it before, but if you are watching and you've enjoyed the stream so far, there's quite a few videos available on the channel of live streams. I've only done live streams over the last couple of weeks, but plenty of videos that I've recorded since about Christmas time. And if you are enjoying it and you want to subscribe, then I'd be really grateful. Liking and subscribing the videos. And also there's the notification button as well that'll alert you to when the next live streams are. Of course, I know you'll know that anyway. Right, so we're getting closer. So normally I would just put in the head code of the train in that corner there, but for some reason this one, I can't figure out why it doesn't work, but anyway. Right, oh, I was too quick there, wasn't I? I did well there. Yeah, this is the one. So I'll put resume rather than start, because if I put start, we'll start at Euston again. And it should take us to platform 6 at Milton Keynes Central, and we should be around about the same time. I mean, some of these routes take an absolute age to load up. This one's not too bad, actually. I was just trying to find something that was suitable, that made some sort of sense in terms of onward progression, because there was plenty of scenarios with, you know, sort of verging colours. There was some with the transitional in-between livery where you got Avanti for the cab and for the rear cab, but then it was just trying to make something that looked as though it was essentially carrying on with the same service. was I saying about it not taking too long to load up? Here we go. Okay, so we are back at platform 6 at Milton Keynes. So I think we've already opened the door, so at least that there's a bit of consistency there. There we are off there, aren't we? Come. I can't figure out what I'm doing here. Ah, we're in forward already. Yeah, I don't like the fact that we haven't got... I think because I'm basically loading up something from before, it won't let me put the master key into the on position. That could even be the same train, couldn't it? Different platform, but never mind. Right, let's get underway. So Coventry now is our next stop. And I think it holds up pretty well in terms of the sounds and the catenary and some of the overall look. Graphically, it's not quite as amazing as Train Sim World, but it's still pretty decent, I would suggest. This is the Armstrong Powerhouse pack. I mean, you could kind of say it actually sounds better than the... I mean, the sound mod's really good on the Train Sim World one yet, but maybe it's not quite up to this state just yet. That's just my opinion, and I mean, I don't want to make that sound as though I'm critical, because I think the sound mod actually is brilliant. The mods and the work that's been done has really enhanced the experience on Train Sim World. We are going fast through Rugby. So Coventry, Birmingham International, Birmingham New Street. We've still got the speed set, but I think we have to be in notch 3 for it to work accurately, as I recall on Train Sim Classic. I can never remember if there is a keyboard shortcut for that as well, and anybody that knows it that can tell me in the comments, then so much the better, because I never remember what it is. Now we're coming towards Wolverton. It's still Wolverton where the Royal Train is based, used to be. There is an argument for saying it runs smoother, and we've got the neutral sections in as well, and you can see this little white circle there that kind of gives us the indication of power. So when we come to a neutral section, that will disappear briefly. Remember, of course, the pantograph that's raised is at the rear part of the train. So I think it's good manners to kind of cut the power before then from the cab and then put it back in again after we go over. That's when I notice them anyway. I'll probably miss a lot of them. There's arguably greater variety of catenary on here, which is probably more prototypical in many ways. There are one or two types of gantry that are missing on the Train Sim World version. I'm no expert on that though. Now, that's the other thing that I observed. I mean, we saw the white cross marker for the kind of, that's a little preview that we've got the neutral section coming up. Now, I think in the old days of the old electrics, you'd be kind of having to notch down and all that sort of stuff. But because the pantograph's at the rear of the train, I think it'd be perfectly okay to just kind of cut it when you see the next marker, i.e. here. See that white, there you go, you just saw a glance of it there in the corner, it disappearing. So we're back in with power again now. We've barely lost any of the speed as well. Now we're speeding, and again it's just because of that thing with that. I think we do have on here. I think we have to kind of click it twice so that you'll know that it's on. I think maybe not. It doesn't work perfectly, it has to be said. I mean, the Class 90 is the Class 91. You have the cruise control, don't you? And you can actually set a specific speed, and the train will stick to it. I think this is slightly not quite as good on the Pendolino. Yeah, so notch 3. Right, we got a reaction to it there when it said that graduated self-lap, so I'm sure it's kind of on now. I think I've confused it, pressed it that many times. We're going to go through that sort of gap in the hills with, you've got the railway line, you've got the canal, and the motorway as well. Watford Gap, that's the name of the service. It confuses a lot of people, and it confused me for years. I thought, what on earth has Watford got to do with this location? Because it's miles away from the the town we all know as Watford. And of course, the reality is there is a little village in this neck of the woods called Watford, but I think that's quite confusing. Well, I don't know. They're never going to change it now, are they? It's one of the few places in the country where you can kind of race alongside the motorway, and the fact is, even if you're a Porsche driver or a Ferrari driver, the odds are you're going to be going faster than them. And doing it legally as well. I think I do have the Armstrong Powerhouse vegetation pack installed as well, so that's hopefully improving the look of the vegetation. Something, did that come out this year or was it last year? I don't know now. It was this year surely, wasn't it? I don't have all the weather packs. I think I've got one of them, but not the... I certainly haven't got that cloud pack installed. Argue that modern trains aren't as quite as exciting as some of the old stuff, but I don't know, I still find them pretty decent. I'm bound to miss some of these neutral sections. Glad we haven't got the number fixed on the front as well, because that would give the game away about it not being the same train. See the M1 coming into view now on the right hand side. Okay, those two Pendolinos were fairly close together. Yeah, I saw the advance warning of the neutral section coming up that time. We have a bit of a stutter there. Was that rugby loading in, maybe? We really are adjacent here, aren't we, to the M1? No traffic at all at the moment. You can see some stuff going northbound. I mean, there must be tremendous satisfaction sometimes for the driver when you see the motorway absolutely clogged up, jammed and not moving, and to be racing by at 125 miles an hour. That's the services. And I'm kind of glad to see, and, you know, again, slightly geekish point, but it's good to see that they kind of made the effort to put some infrastructure in on the other side as well for the southbound carriageway. Tass has warned us there because we should have slowed down to 110. Oh, it might have really got us this time. No, we're alright. We're okay. Easy to be daydreaming. This is the very long Kelsby Tunnel. And Rugby's not too far off. Now if we were doing a run on Train Sim Classic, we were going through Trent Valley, we'd have to kind of make sure it was a stopped service at Rugby because of course the two aren't joined together at the moment anyway. There was a plan by the Alan Thompson group to provide us with some sort of merged West Coast main line, but I think that they found it was a bit kind of something that dumped too much at the moment, so I get the impression it's on the back burner. We've got the Northampton line coming in, and then when we do the southbound 350 working a bit later on, then we will be taking the Northampton loop. I'm running a bit late here actually. Let's get a move on. Some people felt the some of the stuff around here at Rugby wasn't modelled particularly well. Fascinates me that we can actually go through the station at 125 mile an hour. I mean, I know there was, when they were modernising the West Coast Main Line in the late 90s, early 2000s, there was an awful lot of work that went on with Rugby that held up the progress enormously. It took them, of course it was supposed to be faster than 125 originally. I think it was going to be 140 mile an hour railway, but never materialised, unfortunately. Switch the aircon off, by the way. I know there's a button to do it on the Train Sim World 5 one, but it doesn't make any difference to the sound. But I just kind of prefer it because if you put the sound, if you put it to on, then you immediately get the noise of it rustling all the way through. To have it off personally. And keep that white power display thing in the corner. We know about the neutral sections then. So we must also keep a sharp eye out for Coventry. I think this vegetation pack's made a difference. It's made the route look a lot nicer. And I think when I get to Birmingham New Street, I'm going to close down the game, restart it up again. I don't want to risk the idea of running it on the one running because, you know, as I'm sure you know, Train Sim Classic can be slightly temperamental sometimes. Wished it wasn't. I think we've got a 75, haven't we, to bring us down a bit as we approach Coventry, so that will serve as a little bit of a reminder. Be on soon with the 350. Too long to go before the journey's end of this service. As I say, I think it's supposed to be a Blackpool North one, and there are other parts to this scenario. You can download the whole thing, do the full run to Blackpool if you want. So it'd be a bit too long for the stream tonight. So that's the Morpeth board marker for the 75. And I think really we're trying to get ourselves down nicely in time for Coventry anyway now. Now, I don't know whether they do it. I don't think they do it in the Pendolino, but I was interested to watch an Alan ER cab ride video recently, and it kind of barks at you when you're approaching stations. I suspect for the drivers who know the routes inside out, it's a tad irritating, but it's kind of a not so gentle reminder. Probably the easiest thing to say. So we're coming into platform 3. So we got the line from Leamington Spa and beyond from our left, where the cross-country trains go through to Reading and to Bournemouth and so on. Ooh. Be nice to have that bit done, actually. It's one thing we don't have in the game, that section, in any form of the game, from Coventry through to Leamington Spa. And even now there are bits of the railway network that haven't been muddled. We are at Coventry. They didn't go overboard with the scenery when they made this route Dovetail Games, but I think it's fairly nicely done. I didn't hear any advices from the guard. Anyway, we'll kind of assume that he did. I just bleeped twice and then bleeped back, but I pressed it 4 times. Okay, Birmingham International next, and then the fairly short hop from there to Birmingham New Street. I mean, we're trying to work out, you know, a run that I could kind of link together. It just brought to mind really how few services you can run on this Train Sim Classic version of the game. There's been a few created, but there's not loads. And bear in mind, you know, people criticise the Train Sim World variation from only having 690 odd services overall, but it's a good deal better than what you can find on this version of the route. really. At least it's not gradient-wise too bad. I mean, the bit between Birmingham New Street and Stafford, particularly Birmingham New Street and Wolverhampton, is almost like a roller coaster. You're going up and down. It takes a bit of controlling if you haven't got a speed control of any description. Advanced neutral section reminders. Yeah, we're sticking to 100 because to knock that off a bit. I mean, actually, no, it is 100 here, but it's 110 coming up. Yeah, nearly confusing myself there. Now we can go to 110, briefly anyway, because we'll soon be making that stop for Birmingham International. I mean, I did it Async Keys the whole run yesterday, and I kind of did it so as we could get this to Milton Keynes Central so we could take over from the Train Sim World one, but I did it as well through the whole run as well, just make sure it definitely would work and will get us to Birmingham New Street. You never quite know with Train Sim Classic, temperamental game that it can be sometimes. For all that, the section between Birmingham New Street and Wolverhampton, you know, it's not exactly like going through the Lake District in terms of the scenery, but it's still got its fascinations. I mean, to see like kind of disused old factories, scrapyards and all that sort of thing, it's I don't know, perhaps I'm just weird, but I find it quite interesting. So we're kind of conscious here, we've got the 40 speed limit coming up. I think we're kind of going on the out. I don't think this is the regular platform, platform 1. I think we'll be kind of shoved over to the left. Nicely down to 40, but the mark is just coming up. Well, I'm saying that we're actually a bit it, but we're all right. We're okay. You get your Transport for Wales Holyhead services terminating here. And again, that's perfectly possible to do the whole journey from Train Sim Classic, although there's some that actually go a weird way, I think. Not directly from through Chester and Crewe, but I'm not totally sure. Probably should have stopped shy of that signal really, but it was on green, so we were okay. Looking alright in first class, and of course we do have the Avanti branding on there. And again, there's an inconsistency because I didn't show you the inside on the Train Sim World 5 one, but of course that was they very much done out in the refurbished examples. Yeah, heard him that time. Pretend the guard's asleep when he doesn't tell us such things. Well, Manchester United 0, Spurs 3 to Old Trafford. Not looking too good for Erik ten Hag, is it, the way he started his season? We won't venture too much into football. There's a Transport for Wales train. I think that'll be terminating at Birmingham International. And incidentally, if you're not watching live but you are watching back, of course, you know, all the videos available once we stop streaming, then, you know, by all means pop some comments in and I'll do my best to respond, whether it's your own thoughts on the routes or just anything at all, anything to do with trains. Happy days for me. And again, I don't want to keep harping on about it, but if you're enjoying the videos and the stream, and you would like to like and subscribe on the channel, that'd be really appreciated. Help me to support and do more. We are on the last leg of this journey, and of course in reality I don't know whether the driver will be relieved on a I mean, he might do a full Blackpool service possibly, because I think they're often the driver changes come at Preston, but of course it's not uncommon for a driver to be relieved and, you know, take a break and then take another service somewhere else. Of course he's not going to jump in a LNWR train though and drive it, having done a Avanti West Coast one, but that's kind of privilege of being in Train Simulator, isn't it, really? sure we're on 100 because that test thing's pretty lively. I presume this is the last of the neutral sections coming up before we get to New Street. Again, I mean, hopefully the Cross City line will be upgrading the Trainsim World version to include Pendolino, make it look a bit less empty. I mean, I'd kind of like to hope that it might be with the new, is it the Class 730 trains they use on the Cross City line now? Because that, I mean, they could have double bubble with that. They could put it for use on the new West Coast Main Line South on Trainsim World 5 as well. But we'll see. Let's hope it does. Right, so this is kind of the approach to New Street, because first of all we've got that 65 mile an hour coming in. Then beyond that it's 45, and then we're very much into the throat really. There's one thing missing somewhere around here, and that's St Andrews football ground, Birmingham City. It's not in the game, and it's certainly visible. I think it's up there somewhere, roughly about there, is it? But you can't have everything, I suppose. At least we've got Wembley. So we're not too far off from Proof House Junction, which is of course where the Cross City line comes in. And you've got a whole diverging range. You've got the Birmingham, the Derby Birmingham via Burton comes in here as well. So that's what the cross-country trains use. Sometimes the signalling can be slightly temperamental on Trainsim Classic, but let's hope it's working okay. Again, you've got all the works going on for HS2 with the Curzon Street station and that scheduled to be in operation at some point. Yeah, I think the clue here is we've got that little white marker at the bottom. Kind of gives us the okay that we are cleared through that signal. We definitely haven't gone through it red anyway. And this is massively downhill into New Street, and then the last bit, literally we have 10 mile an hour for the bit into the platforms itself. That we're probably just going to be slightly too fast. You know, I never knew there was a 15 and then a 10. It's got us as 10 now. So here we are, Birmingham New Street. mean, it might not be the most glamorous of stations, but it certainly is an important station. Again, I don't think it's represented too badly in Train Sim Classic. Oh, we've got the Pride livery over there as well, the Pendolino. Again, there's been a nice reskin of that done for Train Sim World. Not sure if it's the way I've got my headphones set up, but I didn't hear any noise when the doors were open. That's because they're not. If that's an issue then with Birmingham New Street, I don't know. Anyway, it's kind of signified that it's working, so we'll go with that. I mean, it's basically saying we're a bit late, I think, overall. So there we are, that's Birmingham New Street. That's our run from London Euston through to Birmingham New Street via Train Sim World 5 and then Train Sim Classic. And we're going to do a 350 run now, and we're going to go via the Northampton Loop. And we're going to do Train Sim Classic first of all, and then from Milton Keynes we'll rejoin Train Sim World 5. So again, just to be on the safe side, I'm going to cut the game just simply because it can be slightly temperamental. You never quite know what you're going to get, so we'll reload it up from the start just to be absolutely sure. So I think just checking, there are a few of you watching out there, so if you want to make a comment, then by all means do. I don't bite. But other than that, hope you're enjoying it, and if you want to, sorry to keep saying it, but if you would like to like and subscribe on the channel, then encourage me to do a bit more, then that would be massively appreciated. So we're just going to load up Train Sim Classic now, and then we are going to do 1 Yankee 06, which is the 0535 from Birmingham New Street to London Euston, LNWR 8 carriage. That was the only slight disappointing thing about this Alan Thompson add-on. There wasn't many scenarios with it, and there's only been a few that have been uploaded so far. There's been some decent freight looking runs, but I think sometimes we're a bit spoilt with Train Sim World with the variety. You can choose the time of the year, the day, everything's there for you already. Hope you're enjoying your Sunday afternoon. Trying to work on the best times and days and everything to do these live streams, really. And last weekend I tried Saturday. I thought I'd try Sunday this week, but Sunday works quite well for me, I think, and hoping it's quite a chilled out thing to do on a Sunday afternoon. Right, so there we are. 1 Yankee 06. So if you buy this Alan Thompson Northampton loop, then suddenly your WCML South just suddenly says WCML South full. Confused me at first because all the other scenarios are all on there. So I was kind of expecting it to be a different route in its own right, but it's interesting they've got it to work together. And I think what's quite decent as well is the fact that, I mean, sometimes routes are brought out, but you need 1,000,001 other routes to make it work. Well, with this, you only need the West Coast Main Line South as supplied by Dovetail Games. You don't need the Alan Thompson Catenary pack or any of the other bits and bobs. Of course, you do need other stock to make the scenarios work, but it's, you know, it's one thing anyway. Love some of these names. Whipple Stripper. Love to know the story behind that one. Spiky, 1975. I mean, we're very lucky, really, with Train Simulator now that we are at the state that we are, and there's been so much brought out over the years. And I mean, it's very much a hobby where people notice every detail, particularly if you know the route inside out. Right, so here is, we're back at Birmingham New Street. Good morning, driver. Open the doors to allow passengers aboard, then prepare for the 05:35 departure. Make sure also in the meantime that you consult the briefing for further information. Okay, I'm going to put the light on just so as I can see what I'm doing, but let's open the doors. So let's get the train switched on.
TPWF and AWS operational.
Put those onto there, and then what shall we have? I mean, I suppose it wouldn't be inappropriate. Well, I don't know. Daylight. I think we are daylight basically. Now we should also remember to do this as well, and that's to basically confirm. I mean, we're an 8-car unit, but confirm by pressing 1. Acknowledge that basically this is right. That means otherwise we wouldn't be able to move off. And I think we have to do this GSMR thing as well. So if we can read it. There you go. So it's 1Y06 and then the signal number 172, New Street 172. Here we go. So let's switch it on. So 1. Where are we? Yankee. Can't do this on Train Sim World, unfortunately. So 172. I didn't always used to bother doing this, but it kind of does give you a bit of satisfaction knowing that you are doing stuff that real drivers would do. And I think for a real driver, for that not to be included would seem to be just wrong. One slight oddity here, as you can see quite nicely, you've got the green seats, but I think we go on the inside view, they're red. But I think from memory, there is a patch available, probably on Alan Thompson Sim somewhere, that actually makes them green. But you're always missing something. Nice to see New Street looking fairly busy in terms of trains anyway, not so much people, but then I suppose it is 5:34 in the morning. We've got a Voyager coming into view. So that suggests that that's setting it up for the first run of the day, I think. And we won't be too far away from being off. I could have async keys this bit actually, but we're not too far off from departure. It did say 05:35, didn't it? Yeah, so we're nearly there. So where are we stopping then? Birmingham International, Hampton in Arden, Berkswell, Tile Hill, Canley, Coventry, Rugby, Long Buckby, Northampton, Wolverton, Milton Keynes Central, Bletchley, Leighton Buzzard and London Euston. Now, what remains to be seen is when we pick it up in Train Sim World, what incarnation of the timetable and whether it does the same stops, but fingers crossed it is. Oh, there you are, sorry. Thank you. Right, DSD off. And we are departing at the same time as another 350. That's the Lichfield Trent Valley service. That's cross country. I mean, really, that should be a 323, shouldn't it? Or maybe it's taking the place of the more modern 7:30 stop, but maybe whoever created this scenario, well, again, I suppose it's kind of cutting out a need, you know, saying, well, you don't particularly need the having the cross city line then. That we need at least one scenario going the other way, really, Euston to Birmingham New Street. But on the other hand, I mean, how many times am I going to want to do the full run? But it's nice to be able to cover this section because I only bought it yesterday. It's been out for a little while. And again, it's just another bit of the world to add in, Northampton. So again, hope you're enjoying the stream. Hope you're not thinking that there should be a no commentary option. May turn off this blabbering voice talking to you all the time, but I'm enjoying the runs anyway. Hope you're enjoying watching things. So we are fast to Birmingham International. There's that aforementioned Cross City Line train above us. Proof House Junction. quite like the lighting effects there. It looks quite nice, doesn't it? I don't think that looks half bad. I think one slide oddity, and you might have noticed, seen the train go past. I've made the point of installing the mod on Train Sim World 5 to make sure it's got the LNWR branding, but I think I've forgotten to put the patch in off Armstrong Powerhouse for this, so we haven't got a patch in for this section, but never mind. It's not exactly a deal breaker, I hope. Not 100% sure on which services stop on the intermediate stations between New Street and Birmingham International. So we are, I think we're one, yeah, oh actually no, it says their top speed 100. Did it mention that in the briefing? Reckons they're 110, so, but of course what we don't have permission to do, and we'll try and be as realistic as we possibly can, but we can't use the maximum permissible speeds that are allowed for the Pendolinos, because of course we're on a non-tilting train. But I think as long as it's not the speed limit as the EP and the yellow, then I think we're good for 110. Probably just the cab that's been set up to say maximum speed 110 maybe. Maybe that was Stetchford. Ah, there you go, you see, there I did spy that. Yeah, we're 100 here, aren't we? We're only good for 100. The 110 is only for the Pendolinos in this section. It's one of these stations just before Birmingham New Street that is sorry, Birmingham International, which is kind of good for plane spotting point of view, and let's get the camcorder out and record some from Birmingham International at some point. There's a brilliant location somewhere, and again we've got I can't remember his name, there's a good YouTuber who kind of sits at the end of the runway and produces some good footage. I can't ever remember driving a train on Train Sim Classic and stopping at the stations between Birmingham International and Coventry. Love to have the Walsall line put in as well, because all that stuff around Bescott Yard as well would be good to see. Maybe one day. Judging by the signals, we're good for the platform. should be about on time, I think. I'd be amazed if we kind of do the whole run on time. I think the more you get to know the routes, you kind of understand the stopping distances a bit better, and the tendency is when you're not experienced is you kind of tend to come in too slow, sometimes too fast, but if you're more cautious, but you're going to lose loads of time doing that. There's just an optimum time. Here is Birmingham International. So you've got the connection to the NEC and the connection to the airport, the old monorail. So that's 2, 3, 4 and 5 stock car marker. There's 6 and 8. We're going to be slightly beyond it, but we'll give ourselves that thing. Seems to like give a cough, doesn't it, when it's just stopping? But that's not a passenger, honestly. It's quite nice, I think, how they've done with the buildings on that side. And oh, sorry, let's get it into 8. So you kind of got that. You got the feel for the car parks on the outside, and then the taxiways, and then beyond that the runway. You've even got a plane arriving. Is it departing or arriving? So it's pretty nicely done, I think. Gives the feeling for Birmingham Airport. I mean, the only criticism about the other side is the fact that there's no physical connection with the NEC, that you can actually walk down a corridor towards it in reality, and you wouldn't even go out to the outside world from Birmingham International Station. And the less said about the wonky British Rail side, the better as well. This always made me laugh. Who on earth did that? Right, so this is where we have to be a little bit careful, because, as I say, I'm not certain I can ever remember stopping at these stations in between. Very busy scene around Birmingham International, though. I mean, it all grew up in the... I knew I'd do that at some point. Amazed I've not done it before. All grew up in the mid-1970s with the kind of the advent of the NEC, and of course Birmingham International Airport becoming a thing as well. I'm going to go mad with speeding away, but also you're aware that these things are pretty good stoppers. We should be okay. I mean, the thing about these early morning situations as well is you can't necessarily see the platform shape coming into view massively soon, but yeah, we're all right. I mean, I think the idea is you kind of hit the platform about 30 miles an hour. We're perhaps doing a tad over. We've got a couple of passengers waiting. Yeah, it's one of those old stations where clearly there was a platform beyond it, but nowadays 8 car is deemed to be the absolute maximum capacity. But You love the movement of Train Sim Classic. Well, Train Sim World and Train Sim Classic. Right, look at him now. Oh, she's just walked through the sign, and he's going to do a little swivel. Is he going to get on the train, though? Oh, no, no, he's going to go back again. And the thing is, where are those people coming from? The comedy world of Train Sim Classic passengers. Right, Berkswell next. I think it's Berkswell rather than Barkswell, wasn't it? Yeah, quite liking the early morning vibes about the outlook on the world. Again, it's quite early morning to be travelling towards Northampton or even Euston at this stage. You'd be into London quite early. So this will be a new experience for me driving around the Northampton Loop. There was actually, I'm insane that there was a West Coast Main Line route. Again, I think it's still available on Alan Thompson, where they did include the Northampton Loop on there, but this is first time being part of this kind of official product. Sharp eye out for these platforms. The only thing about starting this thing at 5 o'clock, it's only quite catchy live at 5, but I'm going to be quite hungry by the end of it. I know I've got a hungry dog watching on by, wondering why I've not had my tea yet. It's probably the first time I've ever seen some of these stations in close-up detail, really. And that was the one thing. I mean, there was a lot of issues about this route when it was first released, but the stations were always top-notch, and they did patch some of these issues and got them sorted out, so we ended up with a fairly decent route. But I think the launch stream for the original West Coast Main Line route was kind of legendary because it was so, it was laughable, really. Yeah, I mean, you know, they've not gone to town with absolutely loads of detail, and obviously you can see all sorts of generic buildings that have been used a million times over, but I mean, in terms of the distance and everything, that's all right. And That's quite nice as well. I'd love to have some better shops though, because there's kind of like one or two shop assets that has just been absolutely done to death in Train Sim. Right, so what's next? Tile Hill. That'll be on us before we know it. Here's a neutral section. Can't remember if we've got it on this, but there's some units certainly where you actually hear the sounds of the electric motor just popping and cutting with the and we've got that on Train Sim World with the East Coastway route as well. When you go over the points, it's quite nicely done, that. So it's Tile Hill, Canley, then Coventry. So there you can see quite clearly there, 100 for us, 110 with the enhanced speed limit. So that's for tilting trains, Pendolinos, and I suppose used to be the case for the tilting Voyagers, but I don't think they're used anymore. I think the tilt was taken out of commission. I always get mixed up, was it the 220 or the 221 that had the tilt on them originally? I think they decided it was more trouble than it was worth, really. So, you know, again, all these stations, I mean, that massive walkway, I'm sure that didn't used to exist like that in the 70s and 80s. Quite grand, but other than that, there's not much to these stations. There we go, Tile Hill. Again, very much a generic asset there. I'm sure they're not representative of the flats. There are some, I mean, with the Just Trains set up with their asset library, they've done an awful lot to improve the overall look of Train Sim Classic. I don't know what's going on, I'm on time. So of course it's perfectly possible to not even bother with Train Sim World at all and do this route all the way to London Euston, but I kind of want to do both. It means we've kind of then started the stream with Train Sim World 5 and we'll finish it with Train Sim World 5. So Canley is next, and then we're kind of going to get a lot faster beyond that. This is a little slow section really between Birmingham International and Coventry. And there are, say, there's both Train Sim Classic, Train Sim World. There's large sections of the UK that haven't been built for the game yet. I mean, there's a lot that has been done, but there are still bits that haven't. I think rather than sometimes upgrading some of the bits that have been, I'd quite like to see new parts that haven't been represented. I'm going to get carried away with one of these stops, I tell you. The flashy double yellow suggests we've got a junction coming up, but that will be beyond Canley anyway. I think that's more or less the approach. I mean, I think Canley's not too far off from Coventry itself. Always good to see a bit of freight coming through. This is one of the default scenarios that comes with the pack. There's only 3 or 4, I think. Some more on Alan Thompson Simulation, but not too many passenger runs. I think somebody's put a Euston Northampton one up, but set in Virgin Trains. It'd be quite nice if, I mean, there is Virgin Train scenarios on Train Sim World for the West Coast Main Line route, but it'd be good if somebody could do a timetable for that at some point. Yeah, conductor takes his time, but I suppose it takes a few seconds. I mean, I can't hear through my headphones the sound of the doors clicking. I don't know whether that's just something to do with the way I've got the headphone plugged in. I'm sure you do hear the clunk of the doors from the cab. Right, so we are not too far away from Coventry again. Got to try and get the weather pattern right when we go from Milton Keynes as well, roughly. Kind of some sort of approach control thing going on. We're coming in a bit too fast, but I don't know, we're okay, I think. Platform 1, so I think this is essentially where the Pendolinos would be stopping at. Okay, and plenty of 1960s vibes about this station. Well, a lot of stations were completely rebuilt. Not always aesthetically particularly pleasingly, but see that multi-story didn't have any fencing on when the first came out, so we had the issue essentially of cars could just fall out. That'll do us. They do have protection now, which is good to see. I always love this feature though. I think that sign, I think that's great to see that in. So where's that one going to? That's a Coventry to Birmingham New Street service. Yeah, I heard the doors clunk that time. Right, so now we're going to be... Okay, there's no stations anyway between Coventry and Rugby, but we're going to up the tempo a bit. These things are pretty nippy, and I mean, when you consider the pricing benefits, I mean, you look at the price of a train from Birmingham New Street to London Euston, and you get a much more favourable fare than travelling Avanti West Coast, and it's not massively slower. So there's a lot to be said. I mean, you're not quite going to get the same comfort in first class as you would going on Avanti, but it's not bad. You can get used to the hard seats anyway, that's the one thing, and it's a constant criticism of modern trains. Even the most local of trains in times gone by used to have really comfy seats, or at least sometimes with